Near dark, more like nearly good. Nearly. What's up, everybody? I'm Clayton. Welcome back to my movie review channel, and today we're reviewing Near Dark, so let's kick it. Released in 1987, directed by Kathryn Bigelow. This is another vampire film that I was requested to do by one of my subs for our Vampire Werewolf Week, because it's Halloween season, baby, and we're reviewing horror films. So let's talk about Near Dark. But before we do, I just want to, as a disclaimer, remind everyone, this is just my opinion, okay? So if you disagree with my opinion, that's totally fine. That's cool. But just be respectful about it in the comment section. And don't forget to like and subscribe as well. Helps out my channel greatly. I've mentioned this multiple times this week that I personally, I'm more of a werewolf guy, so I'm not as big on vampires as other people are. I do think there are some good vampire movies out there. If you've seen my Fright Night review, you know that I'm very high on Fright Night, and that's a vampire movie, obviously. But yeah, I tend to gravitate more towards werewolves. They're just better. Okay, so yeah, I'm not as high on Near Dark, I'll say that, as a lot of other people seem to be. This seems to be one of those vampire movies that people love and rate very highly, think very highly of. I'm not. I don't think that this is necessarily a great film or a great vampire movie. I don't think it's a bad film, but I wouldn't go as far to say that it's good either. There's definitely some problems I have with it that we'll address and get into in a moment. But I'll start with the positives and talk about the things I did like. And this movie does have some things going for it, I'll say that. So getting into the positives with Near Dark, one of them is the acting. I do think the acting is pretty good in this film across the board. In particular, I think Bill Paxton and Lance Henriksen are the two standouts for me. I think both of them turn in some really good performances, solid performances as their vampire characters. They're definitely the most entertaining characters, and I think they're definitely the most believable in their roles. So yeah, I had seen this film before, but it had been a while, so it was good to come back to it with a fresh set of eyes. And I remember both of them being entertaining, but this time around, I was really like, yeah, they're good. They're really good in this film, which they are. So, yeah, I liked both of them, and the acting across the board I thought was good. You know, even our two main characters, Caleb and May. I think that they did a fine job, and I think they were good in those characters and gave good performances as well. So the acting is there in this film. That's definitely an improvement from our last film, Bad Moon, where there wasn't really much acting. This one definitely had it. So strong positive in the acting department. The visual effects and the makeup I thought were both really good in this film. I liked the makeup, vampire makeup, and the stuff that they did with the vamps in this film looked pretty cool. The visual effects were all practical effects here. Again, it adds more of a believable experience to the film, when there's practical effects work done and it looks more real, it feels more real, it makes it more believable. So yeah, and I think Catherine Bigelow did a good job managing and handling the visual effects in this film. So another strong positive there. The look I thought was pretty good. The cinematography, it had kind of this grimy, gritty, dark feel to it, which matched the theme of the movie, matched the characters, very dark, gritty characters as well. And the look was a very dark and gritty look. So I liked the cinematography in it as well. And the pacing was good. I really liked the pacing. I think Bigelow did a good job pacing each act of this film. I don't think we spent too long with any one character or any one sequence of this film. Everything flowed pretty well, went along at a pretty good rate, pretty good speed, and yeah, I thought it was well paced. So yeah. Those are my positives, guys. Those are everything that I liked about this film. Moving on to my negatives. One of them, and this is where it's going to sound like I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but let me explain. I think the film was too long. And what I mean by that was not necessarily in the pacing, but in the script, in the writing, because the first half of this film, we're following Caleb and May, more Caleb, and he's trying to get back to his family. He was kidnapped by the vampires. He's trying to get back to his family. They're trying to get back to him and find him. He gets there, and then what do? We just turn right back around and have him leave his family to go after May. It's like, so what was the point? What was the point exactly of that whole first half of the film where you're trying to get him back to his family? We get there, but it does nothing for the story, because now we're just gonna turn right back around and he's gonna leave his family again to go right off into the sunset and find May. Okay. That's essentially what we did here. So I felt like you could have just kept it focused on Caleb trying to reunite with his family, keep it there, and then pay it off when he gets back to his family. Instead, they kind of nullified the whole payoff of him getting back to his family by just taking him back away from his family after 5 minutes of being there. So yeah, it was probably too long. They probably could have flushed a few things out with the script, tightened it up a little bit, but and then there really wasn't much of a story here. Then this was kind of another problem with, Bad Moon, is that it didn't really have anything to say. There's no story behind the story. There's the story of the characters, there's the script, but there's no story behind. There's no storytelling. There's nothing to say in this film. Like Bad Moon had nothing to say, nothing to offer me, nothing to give me. This movie, essentially, all this story is about is, hey, vampires can be cured from a blood transfusion. Okay, sure, let's go with it. Even though that's never been part of vampire lore since the history of vampires, since the dawn of time. But we're just gonna throw it in here because we want to end on a happy note with our two main characters living happily ever after as humans. Not a fan of that call, of that play call. yeah, it's fourth and short, and you go for it. But when you go for it, the play that you run is -10 yards. So yeah, wasn't a fan of that story. It didn't make sense. It was incoherent with vampires. I mean, you're gonna tell me that Caleb's the first person ever to figure out that you can cure a vampire with a blood transfusion, even though these other vampires that have been around for hundreds of years, we know that Lance Henriksen's character had been around at least since the Civil War, and yet he never knew this. No, none of the other vampires ever told him. It was never discussed among other vampires that, hey, maybe we just do a blood transfusion, we can cure ourselves. But then Caleb comes along and, hey, this guy, he figured it out. He's the next Einstein. Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't buy that would be a cure for vampires, and I don't buy that none of them would have heard or known about it. So, yeah, lazy writing there, in my opinion. It's a little incoherent, inconsistent, but okay, it works, I guess, for this film, but it doesn't. It's not very believable for me. So. Yeah, and then there really wasn't much character development either. When you think about it, we didn't really learn anything new about the characters along the way. They had no arc. The way that we're introduced to May and Caleb in this film is, I mean, they kind of stay the same a little bit. I mean, they both have a moral compass. They both act heroic at certain points in the film, and they kind of stay that way. Like there's no developing, there's no rounding those characters, there's no arcing those characters. They just kind of stay the same as they are throughout the whole film. So yeah, would have liked some development, some arc there with at least one of our two main characters. We don't really get that. So yeah, it's not a perfect film. It definitely has its problems. It has things that pull me out of it a little bit. I would like to like this film more than I do, but yeah, I think if I was more of a vampire guy and more of a vampire fan, I would like it more. And I totally understand if people do like this movie. If this is one of your favorite vampire movies, I get it. I do. I see the appeal, and it is entertaining. But I'm not a vampire guy. I'm definitely more of a hashtag Team Werewolf guy. But yeah, we all have our preferences. We all have our subjective favorites, but yeah. My rating here for Near Dark, 2.5 stars. I don't think it's a good film, but I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a bad film. I don't think this is a bad film. It's fine. It's decent. It works. I can sit through an hour and a half and be entertained, even though it has inconsistencies and things that I've never seen in any other vampire movie or seen in any other vampire lore. I can, I guess, just kind of roll with it for an hour and a half. Just to watch Bill Paxton and Lance Henriksen for an hour and a half is entertaining as vampires. So yeah, there you go. 2.5 stars for Near Dark. Let me know your thoughts on this movie. Have you seen it? If you have, do you like it? Is it one of your favorite vampire movies? Let me know in the comments section. And stay tuned for more vampire and werewolf films coming up. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, until next time, kick it and rock on.